We're going to talk today about real life spirituality. Because most of the time when we're dealing with spirituality, we're dealing with, oh, I'm in my state of Om. I'm doing my mantras. Nothing's going to bother me. That's not real life. That is not real life. That does not happen. There are moments of that. So let's talk about we teach a daily spiritual practice here at Agape. So let's go through that, and then we're going to look at it, what happens when stuff happens to us. So in reality, spiritual practices, our first one is meditation. Meditation is key to everything. That is our number one spiritual practice. That's where we recharge. That's where we get the ego out of the way. That's where we let go, okay? The second thing we do is we do spiritual reading. We do spiritual reading because we want to be educated. We want to learn more. We want to find out new things. And so we read Don Miguel Ruiz. We read Eckhart Tolle. We read Ernest Holmes. We read all these books. And guess what? They're all saying the same thing. We keep going from book to book to book to book to book to book to book. They all say the same thing. You're just not ready to hear it in the way it's being said by the author. That's why you're seeking another author. But spiritual reading is a good thing. The next thing we do is we do prayer, affirmation, and mantras. Prayer is the way we define prayer. It's not asking, it's not begging, it's not beseeching. It's making a declaration from the fact of knowing that we are one with infinite intelligence. Being one with infinite intelligence, we know when we speak it and we believe it, it must be done. Affirmations are a part of the prayer where we declare, I am this, as if it's already done. Mantras are Sanskrit words that the very sound, the vibration of those words has an impact on our bodies and changes our energy flow. So I put those all in one category. The next one is spend time in nature. I think this is a magnificent spiritual practice because in nature, when you're barefoot on the grass or you're walking in the woods, your mind is able to stop all this nonsense of processing. We have these egos that want to rationalize and figure out anything, and that rationalization keeps us stuck in our stuff. Are you hearing me? Rationalization and thinking about problems keeps us stuck in our stuff. In other words, the more we do it, the deeper the quicksand grabs a hold of us and pulls us down. Mindful breathing. When you're stressed, do you take deep breaths? I'm telling you, I couldn't do the deep breathing when I had pneumonia, and it was killing me it was killing me in many ways, but it bothered the heck out of me when I was in the deep breathing aspect of it. I couldn't do it. Well, for me, deep breathing is a sign that I'm going to go into deep meditation. It's also a sign where you can oxygenate your body. It was fascinating when I was doing my deep breaths. I put on my oxygen meter because I got myself an oxygen meter now so I know where my oxygen was. And I started out at 95, and 95 is normal. But as I did the deep breaths, I watched my oxygen level go up to 100. And then when I held my breath for the 2 minutes, I watched it drop from 100 to 78. Now, isn't that interesting that I have control over what oxygen I allow to implement into my body? So when you're doing mindful breathing, the more oxygen you bring into your body, the more your body is able to heal itself quicker because oxygen is a healing agent. They use oxygen therapy a lot of times in dealing with cancer because when the body is oxygenated, it comes into a state of homeostasis and the body can then heal itself. Then you've got a spiritual practice is listening to your intuition. All these other steps above are trying to open you up so that you can hear the inner wisdom within you guiding and directing you. But if you're not able to listen, to be still, you can't hear anything. You just hear nonsense. You hear ego. You hear rationalization. You hear your past replaying itself over and over and over and over again. And the last one is expressing gratitude. Gratitude is just the most simple, wonderful practice. And I was sharing this in the class this morning, but I've been pondering, if I could live anywhere, where would I live? And someone said, well, why don't you move to Colorado so you can be with your granddaughter? And let me tell you, my granddaughter's getting cuter and cuter and cuter. Yesterday, we got a picture of her in her new wagon that they were taking her to the zoo in Denver. And she's just got this glow, but then they had her at the zoo, and they were looking at the monkeys, and there's this monkey song about monkeys jumping on the bed and all that. You've heard that song. Well, Claire is there when the monkeys are doing it, and she's shaking her finger like you were singing the song. I mean, I should move to Colorado. And then Friday night, Jeet and I went to this, it's probably our favorite restaurant. It's a Michi's in downtown Carrollton. It's a little restaurant. Chef Bertinelli is there, and he's been the chef there for years. And he comes out, when he sees us, he comes over and talks to us. And we were talking about the fact that we're going to Italy in September. And we were talking about, this is where we're going. He says, well, these are the foods that you want to have. This is what it's known for. And he's going, this is what you look for. And then he talks about how he was going to go into an area just south of Tuscany, and he wants to buy a home and live there. And so we were talking about the advantages of that, and it really excited me. But here's the thing that came back. I said, I would love to live there except one thing. I've dedicated my life until at least, was it 2034, to agape. Well, I can't be in these places and do agape, right? So I said, okay. So things I did then was I started to reflect on my own home, which is really like a tree house, because in every room, when you look out my windows, and there's thousands of windows, not thousands, but a lot of windows, all you see is trees. And so Jean and I were talking about yesterday as we were driving in from dinner last night. We said, we live in the most magnificent neighborhood with the most magnificent home with the trees. I mean, it doesn't get any better. And we went into gratitude. Not focusing on what we didn't have, we focused on what we had. Okay? So, next is, what do you do when real life throws you a challenge that throws your world upside down? So yesterday, I'm getting my vitamin D in the backyard for 10 minutes, getting a little sun, to let the vitamin D come on. And I've got my earbuds in, and I've got Spotify on, and I've got my playlist. And the first song that comes on is by Boston, and the song is Don't Turn Back. Thinking about my talk. Second song is It's More Than a Feeling. And I started to go, holy crap, these guys are ministers. Remember in the meditation I was talking about, if you turn back, you turn into a pillar of salt. That was the whole idea of that part of the Bible. You don't look back. What's in the back? What you don't want. You've changed. You're no longer that. Ernest Holmes in The Science of Mind says, always turn away from the condition to what you want and put all energy into what you want. And what he's saying there is get into the feeling. So when Boston is singing More Than a Feeling, it's more than a feeling, and it's your thoughts, it's your ability to visualize it, and it's your ability to talk about it, and ability on top of that to put a feeling nature around it. Not that it's happening in the future, but it happens now. Not it happens now, it's already now. But we got this thing that we've got to dig up everything, and we form all these groups. Abraham talks about this. We've got a group over here focusing on not having this. We got a group over here that's single. We got a group over here that has no money. We talk about our problems over and over and over. The more we repeat what's wrong in our lives, what we're suffering with, we create more of it. The more we listen to other people say that, we buy into that, and we keep them locked in. And what we do as a group in that type of support group, we build ourselves into a big vat of quicksand. And no one gets out, and we fool ourselves, and we sink deeper and deeper, and we're stuck. I don't know how else to be more blunt about that. So what do we do about that? So I'm going to use the story about my recent health. And so here I am. I've been coughing for 3.5 weeks. I finally get to a point where I can't deal with it anymore. Something I knew was wrong. I knew that I had so many people wanting me to do. My Chinese doctor wanted me to do this. My chiropractor said he can heal me doing this. This person said do this. In that moment, that morning I woke up, I said, what do I believe will fix me? And my body said, antibiotic. Why? I don't know, but I listened. That's where I went to the emergency room, got in, admitted, and they shot me full of antibiotic to begin my healing process. So what I want to do is, when we're in crisis, we say that the best thing we can do is meditate, pray, affirm, and say mantras. When you are that sick, you cannot meditate, pray, say mantras, and say affirmations. You are too sick. You are in pain. Does that make sense? And you've been in pain before, whether it's through a divorce, whether it's things, you can't get in the state where you can get the feeling as if it's now. You can't get there. So what do? You get spiritual prayer and physical support. I can't tell you, not only did I put it out on Facebook, and about, 300 people sent me messages that they're praying for me. My practitioner core here was praying for me. My prayer partners were asked to pray for me because I couldn't know it myself in that moment. I was stuck in my condition. But I knew that these other people could know it for me. That's a powerful force, because remember, we believe that there's one mind. What is known in one part of that mind is known in all parts of that mind. So if these other people can know my truth, and I'm open to it, the healing process has already begun in the mind of God, which becomes a part of me. Does that make sense? So I could be in the hospital knowing prayer is already happening to me. Now I could be in observation mode. When you're in observation mode, you've got to listen to your intuition. What is your little voice telling you? So when they come in and they say, we've got the IV, we're now going to put in the antibiotic. Great. Hour later, we're putting in a second antibiotic. Great. Hour later, they come in with two things and they say to me, we've got something for your stomach. I said, my stomach's fine. Well, we need to do it. It's protocol. No. My intuition said no. I told them no. They didn't do it. The next thing they said, well, we want to give you a shot to not so you don't get blood clots. They wanted to give me blood thinner. And I said, no. I've only been here a few hours. What do you mean I'm going to have blood clots? That's protocol. That's protocol. I said, I don't care about your protocol. That's not me. My intuition said, don't do that. Because if you understand what blood thinner is, it's rat poison. You put that in your system, what's the impact on it? They don't know, they just have it as protocol. My intuition says don't put anything other than antibiotic in. So I had to be a steward for myself, an advocate for myself. And that's what we have to learn as individuals. We have to be advocates for ourselves in every aspect of life, which means we've got to listen to the infinite wisdom in our lives in order to be that advocate. Or have people in our lives who will advocate for us. I did that for my mother, my father, and my brother. They could trust me when I was given medical and financial authority as they went through their last lives. I made sure that their lives ended in dignity and with ease and with grace, because that's what they asked me to do. Do you have someone in your life that can be an advocate for you? That's the reason to have a deep relationship. I know that if I'm on my deathbed, my wife will gladly give me enough drugs to kill me. I'm kidding. She would never do that. Listen to your intuition. Here's what it is. You got to decide what you want when you want it and put your full attention there. When I was in the hospital, my full attention was I wanted to heal so I could go back to being Lee, so I could do what I love the most. So I literally came out of the situation and became an observer and was literally watching my body go through what it went through. Every time they came in, they kept saying, well, you've got to have a heart problem, because all the signs are that you have congestive heart failure. And they would come in, they did the EKG, it was perfect. Then they would come in and do my blood pressure. 108/70. 106/68. And I kept looking and I kept saying, the thing that I noticed though was my oxygen level at first was 91, 92. Now that's not bad, like a lot of people can be in their 80s and 70s where you have to have oxygen. But I wasn't there. But I knew I wanted it higher. So they gave you this machine that you sucked in, and it measured the amount of oxygen you could take in. When I first did it, I got up to 2,000, and they wanted me at 2,500. And I would cough, immediately start coughing because it was difficult. But I wanted to focus on being able to get to 4,000, the highest. So I kept doing it because I was focusing on what? What I wanted, and I put my full attention there. The next morning, the doctor comes in. First time this doctor's seen me, a great doctor, really loved him. He says, get the machine, let me see what you can do. And he says, if you're lucky if you get to 2,000 based on what your x-rays show, what your blood work shows, what I'm looking at you. I went, 4,000. He says, well, shit, you should have been in the hospital. He said, but the x-ray shows you have pneumonia. You see, I put my emphasis on getting that breathing up. I didn't believe that pneumonia could be healed instantaneously. I have bought into the idea that it takes time to respond to pneumonia. And so I am allowing the natural process of healing because Ernest Holmes said there's a natural evolution in the demonstration of a prayer. There's a natural evolution of getting from point A to point B. What do you believe that evolution is? Well, I believed it was 4 weeks. That's because what I've been drilled in for 68 years when you have pneumonia, it's a minimum of 4 weeks after you get the antibiotics. Remember, we don't know what we're believing because it's been filled into our subconscious minds and we have these beliefs down there and we blindly buy into them. The next thing is take a step in the direction of what you want. No matter where you are, no matter what your situation is, no matter what you're dealing with, you do not take steps backward. You do not take steps looking back to figure it out. Why do you want to figure out something that's not working? It's not working. Isn't that all you need to know? You take a step toward what you want, and then you allow intuition to give you another step towards you want, and that's where you lead your life. That is a spiritually driven life. Anything else is an ego-driven life. The ego wants to rationalize. The ego wants to figure things out. Spirit wants to move forward. Do you really hear that? Spirit wants to move forward. That's all Spirit knows. Spirit only knows more of becoming itself. And we're individualizations of it. So it's more about us becoming more of who we are. And when we're in alignment like that, we heal, we feel good. Ooh, we feel good. And you got to keep moving forward. That's the thing is you don't stop with one step. You keep moving forward no matter what. It's like he said, you can't walk for the first week. But after the first week, you can walk for a mile, mile and a half. So what did I do the first part of the week? Walked a mile and a half. Last 3 days, walked 3 miles. He says, I've got to give all next week off before I can do weightlifting. I'm giving it all next week before I do weightlifting. Because I don't want to take my energy and put it on building muscle. I want to keep my energy focused on healing from the pneumonia. Do you see? There's a logic in this. And if you understand that, you have energy. And if you divide that energy going into 4 or 5 different things at the same time, you're weakening in your mind where the energy's going. I want my energy focused on healing me. That's why I've been very laid back. To the best of my ability, I've been laid back going on with everything happening with the center right now. But it's always a step forward. Because if I took step backs or I look back at what's been going on in my life, that would have consumed energy and it would have produced nothing. It would have weakened me. It would have made me not as strong. But if I move forward, I can go to bed at night knowing I've stepped into something greater. And then you got to trust. And here's the thing, you observe. You don't just blindly trust, you observe the progress, you observe all the signs, you observe seeing what is going on, because the universe will tell you if you're moving in the right direction. The universe will always give you signs to that, but you've got to be able to be aware to look at those signs, and when you see those signs, trust. Trust. Here it is. When you're out of crisis, you come back to your daily spiritual practice. Because your daily spiritual practice keeps you aware. It keeps you in the observer mode. It keeps your battery charged. It keeps you focused on moving forward. It keeps you in gratitude. You see what I mean? If I did not have a strong spiritual practice going in, I probably would have had a very different experience now. I'm back to my daily spiritual practice. I got there this week, finally. But it took me 3 weeks of being out of it. I had to adjust, but I always come back because that's my basis. That's my ground. I know that when I get into meditation and I recharge and I wake up, my whole mind and my body are renewed. Doesn't get any better than that. When I pray and affirm, I've now set the direction of where I want my life to be. Doesn't get any better than that. When I express gratitude for everything that's in my life, I'm affirming everything that I've done is toward that which I want. And that I'm affirming that there is a power in me working through me that is bringing me the experience that I desire to have. Spiritual practice is the number one thing we talk about at Agape. But you've got to be aware that you've got to sometimes move it around because of where you are. I was listening to Greg Braden, and Greg Braden talked about the aspect that he was in China in a holistic facility. There was a woman on the bed, and I've heard this story before, but I didn't hear it in this detail. A woman on the bed, and she had a cancerous tumor in her this big. It's pretty big. That's the size of a grapefruit, okay? And they had a sonogram on it, and they showed the picture of the tumor as it was. They split the screen, they put the sonogram on it, and in the next 3 minutes, the woman visualized herself without a tumor. There were 3 other practitioners there right behind her. They visualized the feeling of not having a tumor. Being tumor-free. They went into the feeling. All they did was go, what does it feel like to be healthy? They held that feeling, and over 3 minutes on the sonogram, you watched the tumor disappear. And the doctors could not believe it because they said the tumor was inoperable and it was terminal. The key point is, and this really hit me, it is feeling aligned with what you want as if it's already now is what prayer is really all about. It's not about the words. The words get you to the feeling. The format gets you to the feeling, but if you can just drop into what does it feel like, you will be a Christ on earth today. That's all it is about. It's that simple. It's just not that easy. I'm going to invite you to watch this talk again when it's put on YouTube on tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to ask you to, when you watch this talk again, I'm going to ask you to think about what's going on in your life. What is that one thing that you want to see changed? And I'm going to ask you to think about, do you keep looking back? Do you have people in your life that keep bringing you back to that? Because if you have people that keep bringing you back to what you don't want, you got to gently ask them to stop doing that, or you release them into the universe. Because they're not serving you as you become more. Give them a kiss. Blow them away. You're not speaking bad about them. You're letting them go because it's not serving you. And what's important to you is that you live your life to the fullest, because it's the only thing that you have control of. You cannot control another. You cannot make anyone else better. You can heal yourself and be an example for others. That's the best you can do. And guess what? That's enough. Let's pray. I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask that you go to our website, agapecsl.com. Once there, click on the donate button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. Or if you would like, text your gift by simply dialing 972-532-6976. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to you in the world. I would ask that if you like this message, to please subscribe to my YouTube channel under my name, Lee Wolak. Again, I want to thank you for joining me in the Agape community as we learn how to better self-love through conscious living.